Okay, as I mentioned previously in the last lesson, we're going to start off running through a series of tutorials on how to actually draw up our Year 9 lamp on a CAD software package called Onshape. As you can see, it's functional, so you can actually pivot it as it would be pivoted. We can include all the details that it would have, so all the screws, nuts, bolts, all that type of thing. And hopefully, as we go through the tutorials, clearly we're just making a very basic one, but you then might be able to personalise yours to try and match your sort of base design and potentially put a bit of design into the lampshade as well. So we'll run through the first tutorial on how to do the base itself. So to start with, we're going to click on the Onshape logo top left, and we're going to create a new folder to start with, and we're going to call that Year 9 lamp. And once we're in that folder, we're then going to create a new document, and we'll call that Year 9 lamp as well. Okay, so once you've created that first document, it'll bring you up onto our sort of design drawing screen. It's made up of what they call work planes. So you've got 3 different work planes. The one that's highlighted there is it's called the top, but it looks a bit like the floor, if you like. We've got a front one, which is like a horizontal wall, and then a right one, which would be the sort of the perpendicular wall to that. And how it starts, we end up picking one of these work planes to sketch on, and whenever we sketch on that work plane, we then can use these features up here, so we can extrude them, rotate them, all that type of thing, chamfer them, to do what we want. So to start with, we're going to start off with a sketch. So click on the sketch icon. You can see it asks us in the blue, it's sort of prompting us to do something. So it's asking us to select a plane to draw on. So we're going to start by selecting this top plane. All I do is hover over it with the mouse. When it goes orange, just left click. That creates that new sketch plane. And then we're going to draw our shape. So you can see that the feature tools are now changed to a load of drawing icons. So you've got line tool, rectangle, circles, all going across the top. Again, anyone that's got a little arrow next to it just means it's got more options. So we're going to actually start off in the rectangle tool, click on the little arrow next to it, and we're going to select this center point rectangle. That's the easiest way to draw sort of rectangles. You'll see that in the middle of our work planes, we've got this little black dot. That's called the origin. It's basically the center of in between all these work planes. So I tend to use that as a start. And then all I do, left click, and drag out a rectangle. Don't need to worry about how big that rectangle is at the moment, but you can see as I increase it, the dimensions actually increase with it, but get somewhere near. We're then going to manually dimension it. So up the top here, there's a dimension tool. Again, if you click that and then hover over the line you want to dimension, that line will go orange. Again, if you left click and then drag out the dimension, click again, you'll then be able to put in the actual dimension you want. So for our wooden base, it should be 140mm base, and then we do exactly the same on the length, and the length that we have for our base is 200mm. So you can see we've got our basic shape drawn up, it's dimensioned correctly. Once we've got that basic sketch done, we then click the green button to confirm it. Again, you'll see it then goes back to these sort of feature functions. So the first one and the most common one that we use is this extrude function here. Again, if I hover over it and leave it there for a minute, you see it brings up a little pop-down box which actually tells you what you have to do. So if you ever do get stuck, these little things try and guide you through it. So all we do, click on it, it then brings up this little pop-up box. It's then again asking us to do something. So this blue box, so it says select a face or sketch to extrude. So I'm going to select the rectangle we've just drawn, and you'll see it automatically extrudes it, basically pulls it out of that work plane by 25mm. Again, that's a default setting. It always does it as default 25 to preview. In theory, we could drag it up if we're sort of designing roughly. We could drag it up manually just to look at proportions, but we already know the depth of the wood that we use, so all we do is delete the measurement in there, and we want a depth of 20mm because that's the same thickness as the wood that we use. Once we've done that, we're happy with our extrusion. We then click the green box above just to confirm it, and then we've drawn our first part. Once we've drawn our first part, I'm going to run through some of the basics of how we can move it around on the page. If you click your right mouse button, hold it in, that allows you to rotate, so we can sort of scroll around in 3D. So that's good. Again, if we scroll the middle mouse button, so if you've got a middle mouse button, the wheelie mouse button, that zooms it in and out. And also if we hold the middle mouse button down, it actually allows us to pan our work on our screen. Again, some people don't have these, people on MacBooks and all that type of thing struggle because they don't have a wheelie mouse button. You can do all these sort of rotation functions with the icon in here, so I can actually spin it round left and right. I can move it up and down using this one. Again, I can rotate it sort of that way along its axis. I can also snap to a perfect front view if I wanted to, a perfect top view of that, and again I can select any of these sides. So again, there's quite a lot of flexibility around how you can resize it. Again, if you do always make it so small and think, how do I get back? There is a little icon here which says camera and render options. If you click on the arrow next to it, and you can see you've got a zoom to fit, so if you're ever stuck, you can always press that zoom to fit. Or you can actually do this zoom to window. That's sort of basically a zoom tool, so it'll actually enlarge to that section. So there's the basic operations. It's just a case of, zoom to fit. Just then adding a little bit more detail, and we'll then move on with the next part.